You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning. Sunday number one of the Saratoga meet. He's back. Steve Bick, Seth Merrow in here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Oh, great to be back.
And I should say, I yelled it during one of the breaks, but your lovely wife, it's her birthday. We talked about it on the radio the other day, so I want to wish Tina a birthday. And how did you end up with a nice 28-year-old like that?
Listen, it comes
Vivacious, good-looking 28-year-old.
Exactly. I'll tell you what, I don't have to say anything about Birthday Barbie's birthday. And there was some speculation on Wednesday that you asked me, are you in on Sunday for the first edition, for our first go? And I said, well, it's Tina's birthday, so we'll see. But she has been absolutely wonderful, and I saw that Pinnell's is sponsor of the Handicappers Report. We were at Pinnell's last night. I've been going to Pinnell's since, I don't know, late 70s, right? First started coming here. I've only ever ordered the lasagna. I had the lasagna, I think, the first day. They make that lasagna roll. It's like 3 meals.
Yeah, I love
It's my
lasagna.
absolute favorite.
Yeah.
It's as good. It's unique. It's fabulous. We had a great time last night, and went with our friends, and we've already been the season. You know what's funny about Pinnell's for me, and for Tina and I? We'll go 15 times between now and Labor Day, and then not go until next July, even though it's open all year round. I don't know why. It just feels like you go when it's summer.
I have a couple of those places myself. Where I only go during the racing season, now that you mention.
Well, you only go to a couple places, period.
Yeah, well,
so
that's true.
You've got.
That is true. My selection is far.
You're like
far
Haley's Comet.
more-
You just you go on the same route nightly.
That is true. I must say, I cannot deny that. I don't go, and I still have not been to the place you've recommended and other people because I'm a huge hot turkey sandwich fan.
You still haven't been to
I
Winslow's.
still haven't been to Winslow's. That I have to put on the rotation, I think.
Well, you can just go up and down Route 9. You start at Nove, and then you go to Winslow's, you go to Chez Pierre and Wishing Well, and you just work your way back and forth.
I can do that.
The old standards, the old classics, that not that the new places aren't terrific, because they are. I mean, obviously, what's gone on in town. In fact, it's really quite remarkable for those of you that may be watching on CapitalOTB.com. You'll be astounded, as always. Every year, it seems like the town just keeps evolving and keeps morphing and becoming more and more sophisticated, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, between the construction and new restaurants, had lunch. Andy Serling is going to join us after the bottom of the hour. Had lunch with Andy the other day, the new Adelphi with Morrissey's and Blue Hen. Of course, Salt and Char, what's gone on there. 15 Church. I saw the Cantina opened in the old. Was that Professor Moriarty's, or was it the other one that was around for so long?
The Cantina was in Professor Moriarty's for a while.
Well, they remodeled.
Okay, yeah.
And the place was
But
packed.
that used to
It
be
was
on the
lunchtime.
corner of Caroline Street, or just around the
Yeah,
corner.
just off-
Yeah,
just
it used
off
to
of
be
there.
Moriarty's.
And then
That's
what-
where my office was for years, upstairs.
Is that right?
Yeah, looked over Caroline Street.
When you worked, you mean? When you really worked, as opposed to being on television?
I was on the
17
other
hours a
side
day.
of the camera. I like this side better.
Well, and just look at you, huh? 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 How about a fresca? We got to take a minute because I looked up. I was trying to figure out what year this is that we've been doing this.
I was thinking that last night too. How long have we been doing this?
Who remembers out there the first incantation? What were we before we were loose on the lead?
Which was a great name, but then it just kind of became a little bit of an anachronism. Keyword Saratoga.
Keyword Saratoga. We thought, oh, the intranet. It's so hip and clever. Keyword Saratoga.
It was
And
good, though. That was
right?
good. Yeah.
And actually, that had a natural shelf life because, of course, I got thrown off the network for a year, and then we came back. I was back in the good graces. You remember that?
Yes. Yeah. And so, but when was that?
Well, I think Keyword was 2007.
Oh, so okay.
2007. In fact, did they have the picture? Do you have the early picture of Seth and I that going back to that era? You'll get a big kick out of this, Seth. I pulled out, I scoured the internet, and I came up with a couple of terrific images. And maybe they're showing it, and are we not going to see it? Is that possible?
No,
there we are. Dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun. That would be Seth with the tie loose and rumpled. And you still have that sport coat.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm wearing the seersucker today, which is very stylish, and with the humid temperatures today, it fits right in. But I wore it yesterday, and I have to admit, as I do at the beginning of every season, I took a bunch of coats this week to be cleaned and pressed, so I'd be ready for the season. And I left like 3 in the closet so I could go through the weekend. And I pulled the seersucker out yesterday, and today I went to pull one of the other ones out, and I realized they all need to be pressed. So,
well, that's what happens.
I only had this option.
That's what happens when they're kept on the floor of the car.
No, I've upgraded. I now have a bar in the back of the car where I can hang up the coats.
That's great. Yeah. That's a salesman's classic. And when I was on the road for Procter & Gamble in Missouri, I had that. And you drive, you're on the road maybe all week, and you'd go up. I'd have to go up to Omaha, go up to Exarban, actually. Had a lot of fun, and Mound City, and all kinds of crazy places. Then down to Springfield, Missouri, Tulsa. And you got that bar, and your whole wardrobe is hanging up. I'm very proud of you.
I'm hanging them up now, so yeah. It's a big upgrade.
The important part about this, about the origins of the show, because I called as appropriately Seth, my long-suffering partner, and it's just fun for me because on the radio all week long, I'm the straight man for everybody. And then here I get to just be ridiculous because there's nothing more fun than making him laugh. That's the best.
Yesterday, Brian Nadeau had me going because we made the trip up to Canada 2 weeks ago for the Queen's Plate, and I happened to be driving when we crossed the border, and he brought it up. We're just going to watch the race, and the guy in the booth starts grilling us. I got the sweat for it. We're just going to watch the race. And I'm thinking, am I answering these wrong? He's got this whole list of questions. How did you... It's Brian, myself, and Shannon from our marketing department. So how do you folks know each other, and where do you work? And I'm thinking, this is going on longer than it should. Am I answering these wrong? And he said, don't commit any crimes with this guy. He'll crack like ice.
Exactly. Where did you cross?
Was it the Peace Bridge, maybe?
Nobody asks a question going up into Ontario. They look at you. Go on.
That's what I'm saying. They just changed the shift though, so I think because we had to wait back while they walked in and out of the booth, so I think we were his first person. He was warming up. He was getting things going with us.
I've got a poll that's very important on Twitter because here it is. Here's today's.
I'm still saying it was not parakeet in a bird cage. I had the coal mine right.
No.
Oh my God! Look at the numbers. How many people voted?
Oh, there's about 75 actually. That was an hour ago. Loose on the lead with the face of GoTV and me, Mr. Cream Cheese, no jelly. Back for it's either our 9th, 10th, or 11th year. We're not positive. Which way that I torture Seth on radio and television? What's the most popular? And actually, you can only put 4 choices. So I couldn't get Sacatize in there. I couldn't.
I was at the harness track the other day. We were doing a live remote, and somebody brought up the Sacatize.
Well, there was Sacatize, and somebody also asked about Ding Dong Battle. They said Ding Dong Battle.
I saw that on Twitter. I did not get Ding Dong Battle until I looked at the poll, and then I put it all together.
Well, I wish there were 10. I could easily put 10 choices together, but it's amazing. Pending Twitter account has a strong following.
Yeah, I'm going to change that. By the beginning of the meet, I'm going to change that.
Personally, for Tina and I, parakeet in the birdcage continues to be the favorite.
I'm virtually certain, though, it was not birdcage.
No, it was.
I think I had the coal mine right.
You said parakeet in the cage, and yeah, you did. And as opposed to canary in a coal mine, which continues to be my favorite.
Everybody knew
Seth
what I meant.
Merrill malaprop. Norm Crosby sitting with me weekly for these next 7 torturous weeks.
Luckily, 75% of the audience don't remember Norm Crosby, so.
I've actually had 2 Norm Crosby references this week because our friend Freddie, he is also the king of malaprop as well. Seth is the greatest sport there is, and I appreciate it. I want to get one thing in. The cameras can't really zoom in from where it is, but I'm absolutely tickled and honored to be the MC a week from Thursday at the Holiday Inn for the Unbridled Affair fundraiser this year. And, of course, the Captain organization that does unbelievable work in the Capital District, lifeline, basically, for troubled youth and teens in peril. And they've had the great support of the horse racing community. Typically, Gary Contessa and Jennifer are the hosts, and as some of you may know, Jennifer fighting a health crisis or issue, and so they can't be there next week. So our hearts go out, first of all, to Gary and Jennifer and wish her the best. But 6:30, if you go to captain.org, captaincares.org, you can either donate or buy a ticket, and it's a terrific meal, and there's the live auction. There's silent auction, dancing, and some awards. We're going to honor the Summerses, Chad and Dan Summers, and the achievements of Mind Your Biscuits. And we're also going to honor West Point, both the Finleys and the Bell Houses. And the work that West Point has done to introduce people to the sport, as well as Bill and Ann Long. And, of course, Bill Long and his wife founded Captain, and the Community Human Service Organization. Last year, they got 80 kids off the streets and helped them. And there's a young woman in her mid-20s who they helped years ago, and she's going to be a keynote speaker. It's $125 per person, and I hope that if for those that are regulars, you know, and you're already planning to attend. But captaincares.org, and hope you'll join us a week from Thursday. And I got this invitation for Seth, and
thank you,
and guests. So there you go. So Seth will be there, so you can come and commiserate with him.
I'll have a different coat. I will definitely be wearing a different coat. And I was actually checking Twitter before we came over this morning, and somebody mentioned on Twitter with the Capital account that I used to be the quarterback for the MCM high school team, which I was back in the day. And somebody tweeted a reply, looks more like a center or a left guard. Come on.
What number did you wear?
12, Joe Namath.
Oh, look at you.
I was a Joe Namath fan, but I was left-handed. I was more Kenny Stabler.
There you go.
So.
Well, you're the Snake. That's the new nickname, the Snake. There we go. You never know what's going to jump up and grab you. I love it.
All right, so we head to a break, come back and do some steaks reviews?
We haven't done anything, so we might as well.
All right, we'll head to a break. We come back. Some nice steaks yesterday. Indiana Grand, Indiana Derby, Delaware Handicap. A late looked great.
Oh, my God, she was tremendous.
We'll look at that as well. All of that right after this. We're underway.
And Andy Serling.
Andy Serling.
Later.
Bottom of the hour. Stay tuned.
You know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
I'm Brian Natto. Join me for my new show, Saturdays at the Spa, on OTB TV. I'll be live on the backstretch talking to some of the top trainers, jockeys, and racing personalities here in Saratoga. So join me right here at 10 a.m. each and every Saturday during the Saratoga meet on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead, our first Sunday here at the Spa, and it's another beautiful day. Friday we were here to kick things off. It was gorgeous on Friday. A little bit overcast yesterday, but nice. And it's a nice day today, but it is steamy out here today.
It's a little humid, but boy, if we have, let's say, 25 to 30 days of what we've been getting the last 3 weeks, even the heat that we had. I mean, we don't want it as hot so that you got to threaten to cancel racing, but it has been pretty darn glorious. And even when it's rained in off hours. There was that. There's been those couple of summers when it rained. There was one summer I remember we were doing the barbecue. It rained on Tuesdays, only on Tuesdays, which of course killed everybody's off day. But there wasn't I think there was like one afternoon of rain the whole meet. And as they say, Andy Serling might say, everybody looks smart when the weather's good during the summers. So looking forward.
All right, let's look at some of the action from yesterday. Let's kick things off with the Indiana Derby. The horse to beat was King Zachary, the number 8 horse, coming out of that nice win in the Matt win for Dale Romans. King Zachary is going to be the number 8 horse and wind up 4th as the 8-5 favorite. The winner in here will be number 6, Axelrod. Came in for the West Coast for Mike McCarthy. Finished second last time out in the Affirmed. And it's just, boy, these Southern California 3-year-old shippers, when they come east, they just are so potent, and this one gets it done. Chart margins only ahead. Trigger warning for
Mike Roan.
Mike Roan winds up the number 1 horse, being second, coming out of a 3rd in the Ohio Derby.
And let me tell you, Trigger Warning again ran a huge race, and only to get nailed in the final strides. And this, for a California-style horse, this horse didn't win the way we expect California horses to win. He's a bit of a grinder. Marty McGee, one of our absolute favorites. I mean, we love the DRF regulars and the correspondents. Marty, in the game plan layout of the stakes, Marty, Axelrod right on top for a fat 26.80. And when we get to it later, Marcus Hirsch with a brilliant call as well. I didn't have Marty on Friday, but I had Marcus. Michael McCarthy, who some people can still, I'm not sure who's allowed to still call him Whitey. His longtime nickname when he was an assistant to Todd Pletcher. But McCarthy is really hitting on all cylinders. And, he's a bit on the shy side when it comes to, the media and dealing with the public. But he can train, and he wins. And, of course, Eclipse Thoroughbreds, a big part of his client base. The team at Slam Dunk, what a terrific acquisition as a client Slam Dunk is for McCarthy. But he certainly made his mark early with the Turf Filly, and got some of his early stake wins. But now he's winning with alacrity, and couldn't be happier for McCarthy. And he's not afraid to come east either. He's been shipping east regularly now, and he does a tremendous job. Warriors Reward with another stake winner, another 3-year-old stake winner to go with Firenze Fire. And so for for Warriors Reward, this is a nice, kind of the B level stallion types that can get a good horse. So Axelrod, a big step forward here.
Came in with $70,000 in earnings and picks up the winner's share of the $500,000 purse yesterday. Indiana Oaks, we'll take a look at that one as well. The Indiana Oaks, the favorite, Talk Vuv to me. The number 5 horse went off as the 1-9 favorite and ran like it. In a field where just looking on paper, it looks like she deserved to be that. She was even money on the morning line, and she wins pretty easily. Figuerella's Queen second, Kelly's Humor third. But again, in a division that has become kind of interesting, I'll ask your opinion because I've been saying it for the past couple of weeks, given the results in this 3-year-old filly division. And again, now she becomes an interesting player to see what she does going forward. But after the Acorn, I was kind of giving the eclipse to Monomoy Girl. And after the last couple of weeks, I think I was premature. She clearly is the leader, and it's hers to lose. But I think Wonder Gadot, Midnight Bishu, and Red Ruby all have some potential now in the last half of the season.
She's a Julie. She's a Julie. Do not fail to include She's a Julie in all of this as well. We talked about this on the radio. Was it with Marcus? Might have been with Marcus. What a strange scenario. Usually, when it comes to 2-year-olds, the fillies are ahead of the boys right away. And their maturity is a little bit slower. They get out ahead, and then the boys catch up to them. That is not what's happened with this group. And for whatever reason, not that you didn't have good 2-year-olds last year, but, I mean, separation of powers, she's just coming back. She still plenty of opportunity. We lost Caledonia Road, unfortunately, and so she's most likely finished, although when she sells in the fall, she could, I suppose, come back as a broodmare or racing prospect when Ralph Nix and company sell her. But all these other 3-year-old fillies have just kept getting better as the distances and with maturity. And the Alabama is shaping up really exciting because Red Ruby, she wants all of 1.25 miles, without a doubt. I had Kellen Gorder on the other day, and he says from word go they knew. You've got Wonder Gadot, as mentioned. She's going to run a week from Tuesday in the Prince of Wales and then look to the Alabama. So
if they win we talked about this the last week or so too. If she wins the Prince of Wales, does she come to the Alabama? Because I talked to Mark Cassidy the day before, and he said Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
And he said in the press box right afterwards, the 40-year race sets us up for the Alabama.
Yeah.
Boy, if you have a chance at the Canadian Triple Crown, do you take it or you come for the Grade 1?
I think it's hard for them to miss an opportunity at a distance where she's already proven that she's won. And you talk about a championship. I mean, not that a restricted, Ontario-bred or Canadian-bred victory in a classic in Canada counts against what she's going to do head to head, let's say, with Monomoy Girl. But certainly if you get to the end of the year and you get to the distaff, let's see what happens at that point. Because if somehow a Wonder Gadot was able to win an Alabama in a distaff, how is she not the? How is she not?
That's what I said. I was giving it to Monomoy Girl after
the
Acorn, but I think
Monomoy's the leader in the clubhouse.
Yeah, no question about it.
But she's not going 1.25 miles.
Brad Cox, I talked to him right after the Acorn, and he said Coaching Club American and then the Cotillion because he didn't want the 1.25 miles up here. So.
Well, the Cotillion could end up being a hell of a mix. As well.
So the last half of the season for the 3-year-old girls is going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of the girls, Delaware Handicap yesterday, probably the highlight of the day. A late who hadn't been seen since the Breeders' Cup Distaff last year, whereas the 3-year-old, she finished 4th. I said it when we talked yesterday about this race. She got off to such a nice start of the career and then just didn't quite seem to live up to that. But it got to the middle of the season last year and she won the stakes race at Delaware. Subsequently, a close-up second in the Coaching Club, wins the Alabama and the Beldame. She then lived up to that potential, had a really nice 3-year-old season. But she'd been off since that November start. Alate is going to be the number 6 horse here. Chart margin is 3.25, is the 3-5 favorite. I will say, Sneaky Betty was pretty sneaky. 20-1 on the morning line, 85-1. Sneaky Betty runs second. The number 2 horse, Teresa Z, runs third. Disappointments, Unbridled Mo at 5-2 runs 5th. And Mopetism at 6-1, the third choice, runs 6th in here. But this was a really nice comeback for Elate.
Elate, you had to just say to yourself, well, she's going to be 3, 4 to 5, and she's off a good long time. I can tell you that in grade, I think I looked up in grade 1s, Mott off that kind of layoff, 6 months or more, was 1 for 5, but with 4 board hits too. So they'd all run well, but you had to say to yourself, if somebody really runs here, she could be a tad short, but she wasn't. She ran absolutely great, and of course she had won the Delaware Oaks last year on the surface, and she had an Alabama winner, as you point out. So the 1.25 miles, all of that works. Medaglia d'Oro out of the Distorted Humor mare. The homebred by Claiborne and Mrs. Dill Schneider. Ortiz, easy and patient. You mentioned that Sneaky Betty, who ran a tremendous race. I tried to get Teresa Z involved first or second. I thought she would get a very comfortable trip down inside for Anthony Margata and for the Violas. And she ran okay. She really had no excuse, though, not getting by Sneaky Betty. As you mentioned, Unbridled Mo, a very meek effort. She kind of chased third for a while and then just sort of backed up slowly through the field. But Elate, looking ahead to the Personal Ensign. When Andy joins us, we'll talk about maybe the part of the division rivalries and the big names that are arcing toward the Personal Ensign. You got Abel Tasman now back on the beam after the Phipps. So I haven't really been paying as much attention to the older fillies and mares, really, as we have the 3-year-olds.
Yeah, older division, both sides, males and females, just haven't jumped out this year. But
no.
Maybe over the summertime things will become a little more interesting. Also wanted to show the Kent from yesterday on the undercard at Delaware. Grade 3, a couple $100,000. I talk about it a lot. I love this subdivision of 3-year-olds on the turf. And this race every year produces some runners who will come up here, the Hall of Fame and those kind of races as well. Favorite, that's why we wanted to show it. Favorite's the number 5 horse for our friends at West Point. Look for the West Point Silks. Gets bounced around on the
terrible
we're missing the trouble. We're missing the trouble on the turn.
A disastrous trip.
It looked like making a potential move, not necessarily you could label it definitively a winning move, was going to make a move to be up in good contention and just lost it.
He made a nice. He would have made. Yeah, he made a nice run. He was not necessarily going to beat the winner, the New Jersey bred Golden Brown, Pat McBurney, with 2 wins on the day. And Pat McBurney does a tremendous job. This is a really nice win. I'm looking forward to talking to him as soon as tomorrow on the radio. And I thought that not only was this a great win for McBurney, who's been around a good long time, you could see how excited he was to win a race like this. And, of course, it was part of the Belmont Live coverage. And there was, of course, the Pick 4 that tied together the 2 graded stake races at Delaware with the allowance and with the Forbidden Apple at Belmont. It was actually a fun sequence that I botched in the anchor leg. But the note I want to make, I mentioned Marcus Hirsch. Marcus gave this horse out on the show with me Friday.
15-1.
15-1. And he was pointing out, what he said that was fascinating was that the loss that Golden Brown suffered at the hands of Irish Straight, Mrs. De Tomaso, Irish War Cry, the sibling, Jersey bred company. And McBurney even talked about the Jersey bred company that Golden Brown takes advantage of. But this is a horse that clearly is got upside yet. This was a very good performance. 87 buyer. Elate, by the way, got a 95 for her effort. Axelrod going back, a 94 buyer for him and a 93 for the filly. Talk Viv to me. So if you're looking for the figs and hadn't heard them yet this morning. But nice win for Pat McBurney and a group of partners. I will mention that the jock, too, was it Gyro? How's his name pronounced?
I don't know. First name, Hero?
Arrow?
Rendon? I don't know.
Arrow. I mean, I've just seen it, Jay Rendon, but this was a very good ride. And not all that familiar with Rendon. He had gotten on board Golden Brown at Monmouth last time. So,
and that was only the second turf start for the winner. So
yeah.
there's a nice future there, as I say, in that subdivision.
And that, that's a storyline at this point in the summer. And we can talk about this with Andy, who's great with turf pedigrees. It was last week that you had the second time or maybe third time turf start for O. Dionysus down at
He's turned
Laurel,
out to be a monster
on the turf. So it's that steady parade of horses that try the dirt as 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, but long term they were always meant to be turf horses. And this is also the same thing that gets into the turnbacks, like Firenze Fire.
Yeah.
People carrying on about his performance. Well, his performance was 6-7 months removed from his last one-turn effort, and that's a horse that's meant to do that. Same thing with Funny Duck. I don't understand really why Rusty Arnold stretched him out again twice now after the win in the Pat Day Mile, the one turn. He's a one-turn horse, and he should be focusing on getting ready for the Jerkins. That should be his focus.
He also has to define though whether the off-track helps him or not.
Well, that's a topic that you can't help that in the afternoons. I think he's probably okay on the dirt. Andy, in fact, Andy and I talked about that a couple of weeks ago about very few horses. Yeah, that very few horses actually run better on the wet track. That it's a misnomer. He'll expound on that and more next. Andy Serling joins us after this. What, baby?
He's grabbing. Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
Summer at Saratoga, and there's no better place to watch all the racing action than right here on OTB TV. Each morning, the Handicappers Report brings you selections and analysis from our professional handicappers. Then stick around as the biggest names in racing join us live from the backstretch. The top trainers, jockeys, and racing personalities all share their unique insights and observations. For more than 20 years, there's been just one place to turn for unparalleled coverage of the Saratoga Racing Meet, Capital OTB and OTB TV.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead, our first Sunday here at the Saratoga Meet 2018. Seth Merrill and Steve Bick, and our first live guest, Andy Serling. Good morning, Andy.
Morning. You get to speak in this segment?
Well, I'll squeeze myself in.
I'll shut him out.
I'll squeeze.
Steve, how are you?
I'm good. I talk to you all the time.
That's not your opening day outfit, is it?
What do you mean?
I'm just checking. It's not. You're not going to wear that to track, right?
The track on, but no.
Okay.
Like you, I'll have a different.
Getting stuff out of the way before the meet
Exactly.
starts. Yeah,
Exactly.
Where's me? I made
whatever. If you wear that, it's an uptick of whatever you were going to wear.
I might wind up in this. Kicking off the Saratoga Meet in just 6 days, 5 days. As Friday will be the opening day. You've been up here now for a few days. How's the time off going?
Going well. Yeah. It was going well until about 2 minutes ago. It was fine.
And then a complete 180.
It all started when I had lunch with Steve Friday. It went downhill from there. It was nice seeing you yesterday, but, you know, the rest of it. No, it's great being here. It's great being in Saratoga. It's always great being in Saratoga.
Some quality time last night, and you and I were talking, and I'm still going to try to twist your arm to make the Monday appearances. Last year we had limited appearances on Monday, but I said to you, my viewers want that Monday morning dose of Serling.
There were 3. Perhaps that feels limited to you. Does not seem limited to me. Each one of those 3 did not seem limited at all to me.
Like I said,
I thought I found somebody better for you.
Well, you said Miramonte's going to be in town, and
yeah.
I'm good with that.
Frank will be great Monday. I've already signed him up for that.
We'll have you, and then we'll
Some
have
pizza
Frank, and then
here.
we'll have you in the next on the next week.
On that topic, let's get this out of the way so that we don't have to shove it through at the end. Lay out, Andy, not just the broadcast team and what to look forward to for Saratoga Live, but also the radio show, too, down to Parting Glass.
Yeah, I still need to find a third guest for that. I keep calling. He must know I want to have him as a guest. He's not answering. Yeah, looking forward to the radio show starting Thursday nights. You guys have been a great sponsor for that from the very beginning, and we appreciate that a lot. Manny Franco and Saul Kuhlman are lined up for the first show. I'm still working on the other guest. I have somebody, like I said, he has to pick up his phone. If he's listening to the show, he's never picking up his phone. And, of course, Saratoga Live will be going every day, basically 4 to 6:30, 4 to 6 on Mondays, but 4 to 6:30 every other day, and some days even later. And it'll be Greg Wolf hosting, Paul LaDuca, Maggie Wolfendale, Gabby Gaudette, and some other people randomly throughout the year. And Frank's going to be joining us on Monday. And it's our 3rd season of Saratoga Live every day on MSG Plus, Fox Sports 2, and other RSN networks as well throughout the country. Altitude out in Denver, and it's been fun for us, and hopefully people have enjoyed it. We've been obviously on for Belmont for the last 2 months. Did some shows this winter. We did 5 shows where we were incorporating with the Stronach Group and Gulfstream. We did Saturday shows on Fox Sports 2 where we went through their stakes and our races, and had some shows where we had like 7 or 8 races on them. Little Santa Anita as well. And we've been doing them now. It's our 3rd year, like I said. We're more airtime this year than any other year, and it's been a lot of fun. Enjoy working with those guys, and looking forward to Saratoga.
Nice. And in fact, I mentioned as we were looking at the Kent and at the Del Cap that there was the 4 race, the cross country pick 4s, which are so popular. That one handled 136,000, which is solid. And considering that a lot of times those pick 4s, Andy, don't get announced until like 72 hours ahead of time.
It's hard sometimes to get approval to get them done.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get them out there, but I think it's enough time for people to check it out. And they were fun races. I thought the Kent had more bad rides than any stake I've seen since the Manhattan. There were some boneheaded rides in that race. Wow.
Well, and then, of course, the Untamed Domain gets...
Well, that was a terrible ride by Jose. I mean, he's riding the favorite in a race, and Jose's a better rider than that. And it's just, you ride the best horse like the best horse. I thought Way Early got a silly ride as well. He was moving way early. Bad position throughout, and actually ran very, very well in there. But those guys are big-time riders. They're not warming up for Saratoga by riding like that down in Delaware.
Well, and you bring up, because I said I wanted, you might not have heard, you were talking to Tina, but there's a couple of handicapping concepts or maxims that you could even expand on, and one of them was a topic that you and I talked about after the Belmont weekend, and there was the horse of Napal Chatterpauls, that Cacho and D. And you had made the point, if you're going to run a horse like that in that spot, then let his speed be used, and you go to the front and you try to win that way. Well, sure enough, last weekend in Chicago, they do that, and lo and behold, he upsets that field.
Why didn't you tell me this before the race?
Oh.
This is not helping. It's not helping at all, Seth.
But how do you
have to put up with this stuff all year long?
Next time.
Put up with this?
But how do you look, when you know a horse has got capability to achieve something, and you know you're going to get your price, you can't count necessarily on how it's going to be used in the spot. How do you bet them?
You hope for the best. That's when you bet horses, you hope for the best. I mean, you make what you think are as reasonable an assumption as you possibly can make, and then you hope for the best. I mean, it's not like you can't affect what people are going to ride, and obviously there's some frustration. It's funny watching the races because it seems like in the one-turn turf, 7 furlongs, some even a mile and shorter, we've seen people be more aggressive in the races at Belmont the last few days, but it's when they get in the longer races nobody wants to go. It's a little bit bizarre. They're more competitive up here. I thought last year you saw much more aggressive race riding in a lot of the two-turn
it was a couple,
races.
3 years ago, the turf racing. It was totally frustrating because whoever went to the lead took it all the way around, and it was hard to predict looking at the PPs who was going to go to the lead. Or
Yep.
Or it was hard to predict the horses that eventually wound up on the lead were going to be on the lead.
No, I agree. And I think yesterday's Forbidden Apple was a good example of that.
We can watch that.
Yeah,
there was some, I can't watch anything, but there was a lot of foolishness in that race. I mean, I understand, the winner, Voodoo Song's a terrific horse. I don't want to knock him, but he did take a left turn out of the gate, and he cost Offering Plan the late race. It's possible Offering Plan would have won that race if he didn't eliminate him at the start, and he clearly did that. And then you had Todd's horse, who was one of the speeds. He stumbled, so that helped and made it tough for him to get the lead. But why the Jason Service horse was rated? I mean, he's got sprint speed. What chance did he have? He was behind projected in that race, and when you get foolishness like that. Well, obviously Voodoo Song, if somebody said to me, well, Voodoo Song's going to be in front in 23 and change the first quarter, I'd have said, sign me on at 6-5, and he was 9-2. But there's no way you could predict that looking at the race, and that's a little frustrating, and it happens a little too often. I don't know, it's funny, you look at a horse like Diversify and his race in the Suburban, and that along with Accelerate are the two best handicap races we've seen, or older division races we've seen. And he got a 110 buyer, and what did they do with Diversify? They set him aggressively, they set a fast pace, and look what happened. He just kept going fast, much like his Evan Shipman up here in Saratoga last summer. And that's what quality speed horses, especially routers, want to do. They don't want to go slow early, let everybody in the race, have to get brave. They want to use their speed as a weapon, make everybody chase. And these are the efforts that produce faster races. I think one of the reasons that we're not seeing as high buyer figs or any speed figures you want to look at in some of these route races is people are so intent on rating, going slow, that their horses lose that rhythm that enables them to run those huge races. And I think Diversify is a great example of that. And we just have gotten too far away from it. And I think it was Alan Jerkins, Richie once said, that they're trying to change evolution.
Who appreciated that style was Moreno. It was another horse that would go get the lead, and look what he won. He won a Whitney that way. And what happens is a horse like that gets all relaxed on the front end. He's where he wants to be. Everybody else, is sort of sitting as they think the horse is going to come back to him. Then people start to ride their horse desperately, and the other horse has got plenty of energy to take you home. And that was a stunning performance by Diversified.
It's similar to the mentality of people betting sports to bet over or unders. There's a mentality in that where I don't want to bet under because I might lose the bet early in the game and then it's over. For me, I'd rather the pain over with as quickly as possible. And it's the same sort of thing, I think, sometimes with speed horses. They say, well, if I go to the lead and somebody passes me, the race is over. Well, so what does that mean? You're probably going to lose anyway. So at least give yourself your best chance to win. I think one of the things that sort of psychologically, people are scared of, I went too fast, I'll look foolish. Well, sometimes you go too slow and you look foolish. And like I said, you lose most of the time. At least use your horse's strength, and we don't see that enough.
I also brought up, and I would love you to riff on this, because Seth and I touched for a second on Firenze Fire, and Seth said he's got to answer the question about the wet track. You brought up with me, I think off air, we had a wonderful, you had a great point that I haven't heard made publicly that often. And well, that is you know where I'm headed.
No. No idea where you're headed.
Well, that the concept.
I was out with him last night.
Well, there you go. That says it all. This also involves Justify, and you brought it up during Justify's first two legs of the Triple Crown when Andy said, people say, oh, the horse moves up in the wet. In reality, it's not that he's moved up. He may be not as good on the wet as he is on the dry, but other horses and the way the fields get strung out, and I thought that was a point that needs to be remembered. There'll be plenty, hopefully not very many, but we do get the wet.
It depends who you ask.
Well, the wet track. I mean, the wet tracks that we get.
I don't think Chris and Martin want there to be a lot of
rain.
No,
exactly. But talk about that concept, Andy, because I don't hear people making it in the punditry world.
I think there's a general. There aren't that many horses that relish the slop, that just improve dramatically. Maybe Funny Duck is one of them. And your one-turn point is fair, but I think probably the wet helped him. But in general, it's more that horses don't handle a wet track. And that's why you get the strung-out fields. You don't get the strung-out fields because one or two horses like it so much more than the others. It's more that a bunch of horses won't like it. And the Kentucky Derby was a great example of that, a lot of horses not showing up. So wet track races are more about horses being good enough to just get over it. And they can run their races or run close to their races on wet track. There's just not a lot of horses that absolutely relish a wet track. They just handle it, and some horses simply don't. And you'll see those horses, and they're, it's very easy to see in the PPs because they'll have those exaggerated performances, 8th beaten 47 lengths in the sloppy track, and I think that's more the case. And people sometimes, you'll say, oh, this horse is a wet track demon. No, just he or she just pretty much handles it. And it's probably similar to yielding turf, which we don't get to run on that often. Some horses can handle it, and some of them just can't.
Let me toss out there on that factor. I've been playing the game for a long time. There are things in the past performances that have been added are great, and I use, and over the years I've decided what's important and what's not. You ever look at the wet track Tomlinsons? Because to me, that's one of the things. There are things on the page I don't look at all. That's one of them. Particularly since they put in a wet track record now, which I think, they used to have the bug, the wet track bug, but now you can look at the record and have it defined for you.
Not only that, if you're somebody who uses Formulator, which I do, you can look up a lifetime record, and you can look at every one of their wet track races. And I don't look at the Tomlinsons. Listen, Tomlinsons are in there because some people like them. And that's what, Steve Christ, when he put all that stuff in the form, was doing. He's providing things. It doesn't matter if you like it or I like it. If somebody wants it, and there's enough people that want it, you're providing a service, and you're trying to give people what they want. There's plenty of things in there that we'll like that other people aren't interested in. It doesn't make us smart and them dumb. But as far as looking at wet tracks, I have this argument frequently on Talking Horses. Somebody says, this horse needs a wet track. And you look at it, and you look at the horse, and he runs somewhere in the range of a 78 buyer in a lot of his races. And his wet tracks are 76 and 77, and dry tracks around are 78 and 75. And it's like, no, he handles a wet track. He doesn't improve on it. And I think that's what people, this value of speed figures, and that's the value, whatever speed figures you use, to see how horses perform. And the horses aren't moving up on wet tracks. They're on the same figures on wet tracks, dry tracks. They're just handling.
Seth brings up a terrific angle too, because the whole data conversation, Andy, continues to to always be out there. And among the new tools over the last decade, let's say, what have you incorporated into your play? I know you at
I thought you were going to say I was a new tool over the last 10 years, but I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
Formulator, obviously.
Oh, time form. Yeah, well, Formulator I've been using since around 04-ish, somewhere in there. Is that when it started?
That long? Really?
It's been a while.
Oh, sure.
It's been a while. Yeah, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah, time form for sure. I like the pace projector and time form particularly, and I highly recommend it to people. I don't always agree with it, and Greg Mikowski, who's behind it, would agree that there's times he looks at me, we'll talk about it, I'll say, yeah, I don't agree with that either. But that's actually a good part of it. You put the pace projector, I write it on my paper, so I have it, and often we're on the air and use it when you're on the air, and I look at it and I think, do I agree with this? What about this doesn't make sense to me? Why? And anytime you're looking at information and you're asking yourself questions, whether or not it makes sense to you, you're furthering your handicapping, right? Because you're essentially saying, you're looking at the race a little bit more in depth, you're thinking about things, and maybe you're looking at it and saying, I hadn't really thought about that, but you're right, that horse actually might be faster early than another horse, and it wasn't that obvious. So many people look at it and they go, oh, he has a lot of ones, he's going to be in the lead. Well, no, he might be running against a horse that has ones that's considerably faster, or even twos that's been running against faster horses. So I love the pace projector. I find that interesting, and I also look at their figs because they're pace-based, and I look at them in comparison to the buyers, and I look for numbers sometimes that are very much deviate. And I ask myself, why are they deviating? Was it a pace situation? Do I just not agree with one, not the others? But, I mean, essentially, I believe in the buyers and use them as a tool. It's just part of your handicapping, speed figures. Nobody's getting rich betting just speed figures anymore because everybody has access to very good ones.
You gave me an idea for a follow-up to question. When you are looking, and we'll fold it into Saratoga, particularly when we get into the meet, and you're going to incorporate horses that are coming in from out of town. They're going to be here for the meet, whether Kentucky-based. There'll even be probably some Florida types,
so much work.
Gulfstream types. When you're looking at Saratoga in particular, or it could be in general if you want to answer it that way, when do you find yourself confounded by a race? What's the scenario?
Every day.
Well, I get that.
Daily for hours.
But you know what I mean. What kind of scenario do you find more difficult to discern than normal?
I don't know. That's a hard question.
No,
I think any race, a race that has a center, that has a specific horse that's very clearly the horse to beat, is an easier race to adapt to because you can say, I think this horse is vulnerable for ABC reasons. I think this horse is relatively invulnerable for these reasons, and you can build your play off of that. So when I say the easiest, the races that I think are the most discernible are the ones that have a center focus. One horse, maybe two, but mostly one. And you build off that. Is this a race where I want to focus on this horse and then play some exactas? I want to single it in a multi-race bet, however you play it. Those races, they'll sort of handicap themselves after you've done the work, because you anchor to that horse and then you find the stragglers outside of it that you want to use. It's the races that you don't feel have a center, where you think that there are legitimately 3 or 4 strong contenders, and you'll find that up here a lot. And you know, there are meets up here where I've had great selections, and you know, this is your top choice, your second choice, who cares? Nobody's taking credit for any one of them winning. We're just trying to do the best we can. The meets where I'll have a number of top selections or even second selections win, there's a certain randomness to it. Because I could throw those 4 horses against the wall and I could go 2, 3, 7, 9. I could go 3, 7, 2, 9. And you're just trying, and in general, I'm trying to put the higher priced ones, the ones I think will be the best prices on top. Because if I feel like they're all standing on similar footing to me, why wouldn't you want to put the highest price on top? But there's going to be a great randomness. I might have a random flow where a bunch of them win, and I might have a random flow where none of them win. Of course. It's just the way it's going to work out. You're flipping coins and you're flipping multi-headed coins.
And you just, and the natural follow-up to that is to go back to the Dwyer from last week and incorporate the fact that we're in a market condition. Andy, you all week long in the discussions, I kept referencing what you do daily in the Prattles and in the lead up to races on Belmont Live and Saratoga Live, where you are instructing people, watch the will pays, and you'll see the horses that are going to come down. And you know, we've got bigger pools obviously coming up, these 40 race cards. And what's your advice to people? What's your advice to people that are absorbing what happened last week for the first time, maybe, in terms of the computer betting and what it does to the board?
Well, first of all, you shouldn't be absorbing for the first time, because it's been going on forever.
Not everybody knew that.
Well, a lot of people do, and they selectively remember things. Listen, people go to the racetrack to enjoy in different ways, and they don't have to always want to look at the board. But if you're going to play and you're going to have these discussions, you do need to look at, it's very simple, just look at the doubles. I do it all the time. I reference it on the air all the time. I reference it on Twitter all the time. Very frequently I'll say to people on Twitter a few minutes before the race, I know this horse is 3-1 right now, but believe me, he's going to be under 8-5. So don't, because the will pays, I mean, a horse pays $6 in the first leg, and the double for $1 is paying $6. It means that horse is going to be even money or less. It's not going to be higher. Once in a blue moon, it doesn't come in, but almost always it will. There's an evening. There was one the other day. It was hovering at 2-1. It was 2-5. Went to 4-5. They went in the gate. 1-2 when they broke. 2-5. You know, in the gate. Nobody noticed when that horse lost, but that happens. And Frisian Fire did get over bet, but he was going to be 7-2. He was always coming down in those situations. Now, one of the best things for us in Saratoga is spend a lot of time going to dinner at night with people I work with and hashing over ideas. I think people are very interested to know the different things that we do at NYRA now that have come out of dinners with, you know, Dave O'Rourke, who I work with, who's you know, senior vice president, and different ideas, and hash things out. One thing I would love to talk about, I don't know if it's feasible, and I haven't talked about it before, find a way to, along with the will pay, just include the expected odds next to it. You know, that this double price suggests this horse will be 6-5, be 6-1, so people can look at that as those roll around and get an idea, and then teach themselves how to do it. So that's something you'd like to do. You could also, you know, there's been talk of the idea of using the exacta pools to give implied odds based on exactas, so people could see, because those numbers will converge by the end. And you know, it's funny, you talk about all the great stuff in the form. There's no doubt that with all it, most of it due to Steve Christ, but the improvements, it's given a lot more information to the bettors. On the other hand, it's made it harder to win. And you talk about wet tracks. Before they put those wet track figures in there, I used to keep years of forms in my apartment. Yeah, it was, you know, women found it offensive when they came to my... There are a lot of things they found offensive when they came to my... But one of them was piles and piles of racing forms. But the truth was you could use those to get lifetime past performances, and you could dig up wet track races from the back, maybe turf races they ran, more functional, more about horses and races they ran, and they led to scores from time to time. You don't need too many of them. That doesn't exist anymore, and all these things. So you can keep giving advances and keep giving more information to people, and that's great, except every time you do it, it takes a little bit away, and you could often argue that I'm responsible for that too. Different things you've talked about over the years that become racing vernacular, and that's great, and people become more educated. On the other hand, are you sure you want everything out there, because it takes away from the gems, and you hear people complaining, this information should be out there, that information should be out there, and I want to say to them, isn't part of the fun that you got involved in racing is doing some of the work for yourself?
Well, and it also, the people that complain about, oh, it's impossible to find value, and this is happening, and this is siphoning value out of the pools, we can't make money anymore. Well, in part is because of all these topics where everybody's got more tools at their disposal and are more willing to use them, pay for them, whether it's premium speed figures, whether it's premium enhanced past performances, whether it's replays and clocker reports. I mean, there's more at our disposal than even 10 years ago.
In 94, the first winter I started playing Gulfstream, in 94, 95, 96 less, because I lived with Byron, we were taping the race every night. But you would spend 2 hours at the replay center trying to watch 10 races because they were on video and bringing them up. Well, now, those same 10 races, I watch them online in 20 minutes to 30 minutes.
You used to have to call the guy up, right?
Yeah, in 20 to 30 minutes, you know. You have 20 replays, you watch them in an hour, and that used to take 3-4 hours. And think of the work with Formulator, where you had to digging through racing forums. Now, the end result was you worked a lot harder, you did better. You got $13 on horses that are paying shorter prices.
That's why I like the 2-year-old races up here, because you can find stuff that's not on the page. You have to do the work, but you can look up the replays at the workout sales, and you can look up the breeding and the connections.
It's good for sounding smart on TV. It doesn't help picking winners.
That's all we really care about is sounding smart. I'm
working on that.
That's always important.
Not sounding dumb. I'm going to put it another way. Sounding less dumb.
Let's talk. We were going to talk a little bit about the horses who are going to come up here to Saratoga. We showed the Delaware Handicap earlier. Your thoughts on a late, and I'm assuming Personal Ensign, she shows up here. So that's certainly a name to keep our eyes on. Wonder Gadot potentially in the Alabama. Travers, obviously, the highlight of the meet. But really, get past Justify in the 3-year-old division this year is kind of, we'll see how it plays out as the summer goes along.
I'm heading to a rally after this for Justify to get him healed.
There's another one?
Travers. I'll make a different argument.
Okay.
If Justify doesn't show up, you're going to get a hodgepodge of 12 to 14. I mean, 2 years ago, if we had this conversation here and I said to you, there's a horse out in California named Arrogate, you would have. So who knows for sure who's out there? And at the end of the day, Travers Day is going to be an amazing day of racing, whether Justify shows up or not. And yes, obviously there's a prestige factor. You want the Triple Crown winner here. I want nice weather. That's what I want. I want nice weather, and the rest will take care of itself. And it'll be a great day. And nobody's going to come to the Travers and go, man, I had a terrible day today, but if Justify had been here, it would have been just that they're going to come and they're going to have fun like they do at Saratoga 40 days a year. It's
you get the undercard like we had Belmont Stakes Day. That Belmont Stakes card this year was Met Pile this year is going to go down as one of the top 5 races of the year.
And you know that Chad Summers is stretching out Mind Your Biscuits in the Whitney, and I think that's a great move by him. Why not? He's got nothing to lose. He can't get a mile and 1/8. So be it. So what? What's the difference? He's done everything else. And I really think that's terrific by them to be doing that, and that's going to make it exciting because his losing performance in the Met Mile will go down as perhaps the best losing performance of the year. It is, up to this point, the best losing performance of the year. Sensational. And, B Jersey, who knows what they'll do for sure with him, though the Forgo is the most likely, and he's a terrific horse as well. And that's one of the great things about Saratoga is stars emerging. I mean, Elate is such a funny horse, right, because she had that splashing debut as a 2-year-old, and then she floundered.
Then she was lost
and she had a terrible performance in the Ashland, a race on paper she couldn't lose. And obviously, if she ran a race, she would have won it. And then they went to Delaware and they regrouped, and then she ran that tremendous race when she was second in the CCA Oaks, and then the huge race in the Alabama. And suddenly, a star is born. And I mean, say the same thing for Royal Delta for Mott.
Well, that was the same pattern.
She won. She did win the Oaks. She did win the Black Eyed Susan.
That Suncoast down at Tampa. You thought
she won the Black Eyed Susan, and then they used the CCA Oaks to prep for the Alabama. But Saratoga is this enormous package, this great presence sitting on your porch. And every day you open another part of it, and that's the great thing about Saratoga. You go in saying, well, Justify may not show up. Who's out? They're out there, and they're going to come, and it's going to be great racing. 2-year-olds, who knows? I mean, we've seen so many top 2-year-olds debut here. People forget that Always Dreaming, who won the Derby, debuted here. Practical Joke debuted here as a 2-year-old.
How about Closing Day last year? Enticed and Engage both broke their maiden on closing day.
Right. So, I mean, you're going 2 horses that disappointed later in their careers. But no, you're going to see great racing up here. At the end of the day, You just hope the weather holds out reasonably well. And if it does, we'll do well. Lone Sailor.
How about that?
Tom Amoss is currently riding him, actually, to Saratoga. I think he just crossed the Ohio border.
That's like out of Damon Runyon, right?
I forgot to mention Tom. Goes with it. I can't believe I forgot to mention Tom on the show.
I'll tell him. You completely forgot.
I'm having dinner with him Wednesday night. Tom Amoss is one of my favorite people on earth. I love Tom. And I just love working with Tom. Yeah.
You two together are so much fun because he just gives it right back.
It's great.
And
when the first time that I was on with Tom, or one of the first times, he was giving me a hard time on the air, and they turned the cameras off, and he turned to me and he goes, "You're okay with that, right?" And I said, "Tom, I'm good with everything.
Absolutely.
It's all good."
You know what's funny though? On the internet, nobody attacks you and says Andy's so mean to Tom Amoss.
Nobody says Tom Amoss is mean to me. I feel a little bit hurt. Mean is good. It's good entertainment. And let me tell you something. It's good because Tom is terrific. I mean, he knows his stuff. He's got opinions, and he's not afraid to give them. And Tom's, I mean, one of the great things about working in this industry and doing these jobs is the number of people you meet. You know, I have people that say to me, "Do you get along with the trainers?" And I think about it, and I thought, I can't think of one trainer that I don't like. You get along with, I mean, I think there's a real misunderstanding about the community in horse racing. It is a community, and people are competing with each other, and there's disagreements, and there's going to be things that ruffle somebody's feather. But overall, I think everybody has the same goal, which is to make this sport succeed.
Yeah.
And there's a great misconception that there's animosities that simply don't exist.
Well, and you could bring up another topic on that front, where if you legitimately bring up a ride, for instance, or a horse placement, and you criticize it, people overreact. I've never seen such overreaction to.
They overreact things I say.
Well, but what's amazing about it is, in every other professional sport, if a quarterback has a bad day, if you know, top quarterback goes 10 for 31 with 3 interceptions, and everybody critiques that, it's expected. In this sport, you're supposed to just shrug off every bad ride. I mean, the jocks are going to get a chance 20 minutes later to fix that. They're professionals. They're supposed to take criticism.
Well, they're also supposed to make mistakes.
Of course.
The notion that riders aren't supposed, I mean, it's amazing how few mistakes these guys make, and I think we're very spoiled here because you've got a riding colony over there that's so good that any small mistake almost gets magnified. But the notion that any rider, they're making split-second decisions all the time. They're flipping coins. They're going to make even the best riders. And, you know, one of my favorite discussions last year, I was very critical of Jose Ortiz, who I have, you know, just an enormous amount of respect for, and what idiot wouldn't? I mean, the guy is a young guy who's a sensational rider. And I was critical of the ride, and he stopped me, and we talked about it, and he disagreed, and we talked about it, and I'm going to learn something from that as well. And, you know, whether Jose does or doesn't, or there's something to be learned from what I said, there may not be. But, I mean, those are good discussions. I'm always happy to talk to riders. I like talking to riders. I like if somebody says, I disagree with what you said, Andy, and this is why. I appreciate that. I'm glad they listen. I'm glad they take the time to talk to me about it.
Well, and you also notably you may be the first to point out a bad effort. You're also the first to point out a good one.
Well, sure.
You had been rough at one point during the winter, early in the winter, on Dylan Davis, and then all of a sudden Dylan Davis kind of, the switch went on, and he had an unbelievable winter, and you went out of your way to point out that whatever was bogging him down earlier in the winter is over with now, and he's riding with great clarity and aplomb. And
a lot of it's the horses they ride, and you know, you get confidence from riding them. But of course, you want to be complimentary to the riders. I mean, you can't be one of these people that's just being critical of them. And the thing is, I think if you looked at them, and the riders know this, there's 20 compliments for every criticism at least. There aren't that many criticisms. And listen, I'm happy to show why I think the rides were bad. I'm happy to have the discussion.
And as you said, on the sports side, that happens all the time. Right. You know, football, baseball, basketball, so it's got to happen here, too.
And how has this game flourished by people saying everything was elves and fairies? You know, everything was perfect around here.
I mean,
the game is better for a critical discussion of it. It's just like talking horses. It's not personal. It's not. You're not trying to knock somebody. Yep. I understand. You know, guy says, "Well, this is my living, and I lose that mount or something." Well, I mean, that's just not really our problem. We're working for the fans, too. But this sport needs more positive critical analysis.
And once again, give us an update on the Thursday show before we let you go.
Right now, it's Manny Franco and Saul Cumin. I cannot release the name of the person that I'm trying to add to shame him into it. Maybe somebody else will approach me. And we're going to have, throughout the year, a lot of the guests we've had in the past. I think I'll get Dale Romans on to interview me one night. He's always wanted to do that. And Dale's fun. And we've talked about a lot of different people. A lot of good ideas I got from people on Twitter. If he'll bring on, I'd love to bring on our friend Jerry Brown. He's sort of hemming and hawing. I think Jerry would be a great guest. I mean, to me, he's as smart a guy as you'll find in the game, so I'll try to coerce him into coming in. But throughout the year, we'll get people on, and it's been a lot of fun.
Jerry Brown, numbers guy, for people who don't know.
Not the governor.
Did Saul Cumin buy
He's welcome to come on.
Did Saul Cumin buy a part of the show?
He's also welcome to do that.
Very good. All right, so Thursday night's Parting Glass.
8:30.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Shows that Steve doesn't go.
I come down.
What time is your show on in the morning? From 4 in the morning to 7?
In California. 3 to 6 in California. No,
6 to 9. 6 to 9 in California, Steve.
I come down every Thursday.
You do.
Hot turkey sandwich.
You're a real friend, okay? You're a true friend, Seth, okay? Steve is what he is,
He comes occasionally.
I took him to lunch the other day, and they took his lunch off the menu. He ate almost all of it.
Oh, I should say, this is our first show. We got to wrap up, but I should say, that Belmont Steaks, they went over to King Umberto's. Oh, the Bic Bragiol. Oh, knocked it out of the park.
Don't.
But it was good. It was good.
Blow his big head up already. Tina, don't let him wear this outfit to the track this year.
I said to you and Tina, I think the next day, I said, oh, it's great. The dish they named after you. Tina said, just name it after him. It's like your recipe.
No, I discussed it with Pietro, the head chef.
It was good. I credit where criticism where it's due, credit where it's due.
You'll appreciate.
I was really warming up to you, Seth.
I outsold the Privman Porterhouse by a wide margin.
It's really also big news, which I'm sure everybody watching is really excited by.
Somebody goes down to New York. Is it still on the menu?
I think the show's over. They took the lights off.
Oh, the Tally lights did go off. But we do have to wrap up one way or the other, as we are running late. But Andy, appreciate the visit.
Been a pleasure. It was great to see you guys.
The traditional kickoff. Loose on the lead every year.
My mom's waiting for me.
You can go, but you can't leave yet.
We'll have you plugged in second Monday of the meet.
We'll see.
So people can look. All right.
I think somebody important's going to town that day.
We're going to wrap up this edition of Loose on the Lead. Our first Sunday. We're here every Sunday morning during the Saratoga meet, 10 a.m.
You want to wish Tina a happy birthday again, right? To
Absolutely.
close the show?
Again?
Tina, who is out there, happy birthday to your lovely wife.
Derby
As
Barbie.
I say, how you ended up with a good-looking 28-year-old like that, I'll never figure out.
Lucky wicket. I just went to the IRS window a couple too many times, and the next thing I knew, we were dating.
Let me go before I throw up.
That is the funny story, though. You met her because she was working a mutual.
Like 20 after 11. My mom's looking for me. Can you get out of here, please?
All right, we're wrapping. Loose on the Lead every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Tune in all meet long. Enjoy the races the rest of this afternoon. Opening day on Friday, but we're back with morning programming on Thursday. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.